All right, we're recording.
Yes, sir.
Welcome everyone to the Rink Report podcast. Recording this one December 20th, 10 p.m. As always, joined by my co-host Jason.
How's it going, guys? Good week, good month. Like you said, I think you tweeted this.
It was 1-1-1 this week. There was some good hockey, some bad.
Still I think it was a good progress considering. We'll get into it in a bit, but
we've seen worse weeks with better results.
Exactly.
I'll tell you that.
But I think we're what is it? We got 14. We got I think 16 or 15. No, we got like 14 points in 18 games or 14 out of 18 total points this month is what I'm trying to say, or maybe 13 out of 18 total points. I had the mental math; it left my brain. But listen, better than our November. We usually dominate in November, and it seems like December might be the new month now. That's all I'm trying to say.
I moved the November Cup to December. So
exactly. No one.
I hope the Leafs don't make me look like a fool. But currently, they're not winning the December Cup rankings right now, simply because they've played less games than some other teams. But I tweeted it yesterday, and I want to find it. Here we are. So. No, that's the wrong standings. For God's sakes. I had it here. Oh.
It's crazy. The Hurricanes are 12-0-1. No, that's the wrong season.
That's probably yeah. The Leafs were like 4-0-3 going into this game.
Yes.
So now they're 4-1-3. So they have, 11 points out of a possible 4-5.
4-1-4.
16. Yeah. Oh, 4-1-4.
Yes, because they were 4-0-3.
They were 4-0-3 going into last night's game.
Oh, going into last night's game.
They just played less games than a lot of other teams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways.
1-1-1 this past week.
Yeah.
Obviously, the thriller against Columbus at home. All three games at home. The stomping in the Duba Cup. What was I calling it? What did I call it? The
Duba Cup. Duba game.
Oh my gosh. This is
Duba Bowl? Duba Bowl.
It might have been the Duba Bowl. This is off to a fantastic start. Everything I wanted to talk about.
I think it was the Duba Bowl.
It was the Duba Bowl. Yeah.
Why did we drop the S, by the way?
It's the Duba Bowl. I don't know. Duba Nation.
Okay.
The Duba sites. Right? I don't know.
All right.
I thought it sounded a lot better. Like Duba Bowl, Super Bowl. If it's the Dubas Bowl, like I don't know. Game 2 of the Duba Bowl went to the Leafs, though. Yes. 7-0 stomping over the Penguins. They showed Kyle Dubas so much. It's kind of funny that they put both those games on Saturdays, too.
They knew what they were doing. They fully knew what they were doing when they were scheduling out these games.
I wonder, do other people really... I know Leafs fans care. I wonder if Penguins fans kind of care that the president and GM of their team used to kind of sandbag the Leafs.
I think they want to care. I think they want to be like, oh, you let the guy go. Now he's ours. Like, I know some Pittsburgh fans who really didn't like Kyle Dubas and then changed their tune the second that he went on. And it's like, bro, I have 3 years of receipts from you. Are you sure you want to walk back everything you said? But anyways.
Anyways, the Leafs stomped them without Matthews. They were favored going into that game.
Crazy. I forgot they didn't
Martin
have
Jones
for that game.
In net, 38 saves that game for Martin Jones. Bobby McMahon, his first goal. And then obviously last night, the Rangers game, which we'll get into that one first. But later in the episode, our big kind of topic of the episode is going to be the Leafs forwards. Is that an area where the Leafs are going to or should target for upgrades at the trade deadline? Specifically, I think the polarizing one this past week has been Max Domi for a few different reasons, I'll say. But before we get into all of that, I want to give a shout out to our friends at Manscaped. You guys have heard this ad over and over again. The product's solid. I really like the quality of it. I use it pretty much every day. They have the 5.0 out. I'm just getting the script out, and I don't know where
You're good.
to jump into
If you
it.
need me to
The
filibuster,
leaders in below the waist grooming have just launched their 5th generation lawnmower to help you avoid another silent night in the bedroom this year. Take care of your special snowflake with Manscaped and watch your South Pole shine like never before. Get the best stocking stuffer of all time by going to manscaped.com and using the code RINKRAT, that is RINKRAT, for 20% off plus free shipping. I know I've gotten some feedback that people love hearing me ever so explicitly and in detail explaining, the downstairs part of the human body, but you're going to hear me explain it a lot more. Manscaped.com, promo code RINKRAT for 20% off and free shipping. Shall we get into it? Do you want to start with the most boring game of the week, or which other one? Because there was 2 very exciting games. Last night's game was kind of boring.
It was
shitty luck, but
yeah, no, I still had fun with it though, because it was like, I don't know, because like
2 nice Matthews goals.
Yes, and you could like kind of copium your way out of that game of saying like, just a couple bad bounces or a couple good bounces, and we're winning that game.
Well, not good. I mean,
they were
3 goals,
three insane goals, like actually insane goals. And I'm hard on goalies, that, and like I don't know, you don't even have to have me say that those were like obviously insane goals, right? Like, and I don't know, it was tough to see for Martin Jones, who I think started 3 games for us, looked good in 2 so far. This one also looked good in this one, but just those goals. There was one, but he gave up 1 bad goal though. You're right.
Yes, that was a very bad goal.
That was bad. I hope this game doesn't kill his confidence. That's pretty much all I have to say about this game. Like you said, 2 good Matthews goals. Happy with the performance of the team. Unfortunate bounces. You can't do anything about that. And I mean, I just hope that Martin Jones doesn't lose confidence from this. I hope I didn't just there's not really much to talk about for this game. Hopefully I left some meat on the bone for you.
So as you mentioned, like, it was a breakaway, but you have to recognize that's Braden Schneider on the breakaway. He's not that offensively inclined, we'll say. He's in on a breakaway, and he played the deke, or the come across, I guess you would say. So going from his glove side to his blocker side, he cheated on that so bad that it just left the entire 5-hole, or even the top side of the net too, wide open for Braden Schneider. Schneider fanned on the shot, and it went in. And when you slow it down, you take the screenshot. Before the shot was released, Jones was going for the poke, but it was like the poke where he would meet him if he was coming across. So just nowhere near him. Just a horrible read on that.
Yeah,
but overall in that game, I thought Martin Jones played very well. I thought he made some very good saves on some good players in that one. Throughout this one, like he got beat on that one. The rest of the goals were off a skate, off a glove, off of this, off of that. Like, it was a pretty solid game from Martin Jones. Like, you got to remember, this is Martin Jones.
Yeah,
this is probably the best you're going to get from him. He's going to give you enough to win. I mean, he won a good amount of games in Seattle last year, but he had a sub 900 save percentage last year too. You got to remember that. So this has been pretty good hockey from Martin Jones. We got a shutout. We got last night, which I thought was pretty decent too. So shout out to him. He's been playing above expectation, in my opinion.
Definitely. And I guess, okay, so like this is kind of going to overarch for the other 2 games, and we're going to get into those in a sec. I guess if you're done talking about, like, if you're good to go.
My one last stat with this one. So it was funny seeing it because ClearSight does a great job with advanced analytics. They're a private model. Steve Valiquette tweets the ClearSight analytics like summary after every single game. The 3 goals that went off of skates and were deflections were counted as high danger chances. So it really skewed the Rangers stats in that sort of way. It was like 11 high danger chances for the Rangers. Okay, you take out those 3 that went off skate, sticks, blah, 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 blah. They had 8. And like the Leafs had 7. So it's kind of pretty close, I would say. But the one thing I will say, natural stat trick, at 5-on-5, the Leafs had like a 51.1% expected goals for, which, okay, whatever. Scoring chances for and against, according to Natural Stat Trick, at 5-on-5, 32 for the Leafs, 22 for the Rangers. It was a pretty good game. They got their chances. They couldn't bury on a few. I remember there was a few open nets that were missed. There was a few great chances. Shesterkin's a heck of a goalie. So not a bad game. If you're going to lose a game where the other team has 3 goals go in off of your own guys, I'll take it. It's an 82-game season.
Yeah.
And no power plays in this one. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
For the Leafs. No power plays for the Leafs.
We, over the last 3 years, have the least amount of power, or over the last 2 years, have the least amount of power plays by like 7 or 8. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I think they've taken one of the least amount of penalties, I would say, too.
Fair.
I'm guessing on that one.
I don't know. I hate looking at these stats because talking about refereeing is just noise. It's just noise. But yeah. Okay, so what I was going to get into was, obviously
we're not even going to talk about Columbus.
No, we're still going to talk about Columbus. We're going to talk about those games, but I'm just curious about your level of concern because I know that Ilya Samsonov is supposed to be sick, is sick, right? Like he had the flu or whatever, which is part of the reason why. Or is that not why he missed the start?
Dude, he had the flu like 2 weeks ago.
Well, then I don't understand. So level of concern with him missing, or level of concern with him. Period. Like level of concern with him. Period. Pretty high, eh? Because. Simply
because it's a mental thing. It's not a physical thing. If it was a physical thing, it's like, okay, we got to figure it out. We got to rest them. If it's a shoulder, knee, whatever, you know what it is. It's a mental thing. How do you get that back on track? You don't know if it's going to ever get back on track. Do you have to send him on a conditioning stint once Joseph Wool's back? Do you give him do you grit through it and give him a couple starts, to try to push the confidence? Like, I have no idea. Like, the crazy thing is about that Columbus game, to start the game, the Leafs went down 2-0 in the first period. The first 2 goals I wouldn't say were his fault at all. He made 3 or 4 great saves. He was looking like he was okay. He's given up 2, but he's looking pretty good. And then he gave up some that were like, okay, dude, like, come on. Just misplays, misreads, whatever. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But overall, not a good game from him. But it was a great start. So it's like, how do you get that and extend it? Like, it's just mental mistakes from him, really. Like, I don't know what the difference, like this year versus last year. What, he had a kid and he went through arbitration. That's pretty mentally taxing, I would say.
Yeah.
And now he's going into free agency, unrestricted free agency. So. I don't know.
So with him going into unrestricted free agency, do you feel like, is there a point at all where we could see the Leafs move off? If Martin Jones plays well for us over, let's say, the next month or so, right? If Martin Jones fully takes the reins of starter over Ilya Samsonov in the short period of time that we're going to be hopefully without Joseph Woll, is there anything you could see coming? Maybe do you think that do you think it makes sense to move off him? And also, is it I know we have a lot of LTIR space, but is he now the most obvious candidate to be traded if we need? Not now, but if the scenario happens where Martin Jones just significantly outplays him over a month and a half leading up to the trade deadline, is he now the obvious odd man out where if you need to dump cap, he's the answer?
We'll get into the trade deadline stuff because I was thinking about it today and I was like, it's an interesting point regarding cap space, regarding assets, blah, blah, blah.
Sorry, I was just thinking about that, but
no, I understand. It was something I wanted to get into. I think it's a bigger conversation than just I am having the time of my life with these boogers coming out of my nose right now. This is awesome. Anyways, with Martin Jones, you have to remember, he could give you a good month, but what is Martin Jones? You have to remember, everything kind of regresses to the mean. He's playing well right now through three appearances. What would have been 3 starts? Yeah, 3 starts, 4 appearances. He has a .930 save percentage. Is that going to stay?
Probably not.
No. Last year he had an .886 save percentage.
Yeah, but
what changed?
To be the team, but to be fair to Martin Jones, has he ever looked good with a bad team in front of him? No, but has he ever looked good with a good team in front of him? Yes.
Seattle's bad?
Seattle wasn't the best, but we've seen like Seattle is like was a prime regression team for this year, and they weren't like a dominating
defensive team.
Fair, but that also doesn't, like you mentioned before, good defense doesn't always translate to good goaltending because the style of defense you play also depends on like the style of defense matters for your fit depending on your style of goaltender, right? Just because you play defense a certain way and it's well doesn't mean that it will fit with how your goalie plays, right? Okay. But we've seen Martin Jones play well in front of a San Jose Sharks team way back when, who was actually like a legit good team, long time ago. But hey,
how many years ago?
We've seen this.
Give me the number. I'm not letting you get off of this. How many years ago? Well, give me the number.
It was probably 4 years ago. But we've seen this before with other goalies like Mike Smith. That's another example of a guy who fell off, was good, fell off, then came back with another good team. Like this is like the ebb and flow of goaltending. Goalies sometimes go through massive bad years. And like, listen, is Martin Jones going to be like amazing for us? No. But could he have like could we be 2 months from now? And even though he's a .930 save percentage and me making this, no, he's got 4 games. No, this isn't even that bold of a prediction. I think he can survive above a 905 save percentage until March or until Joseph Woll's back.
Maybe his last respectable season, 915 in 2017, 2018 when he was 28. It has been 5 full seasons since then.
We've seen goalies dip, duck, dive,
use Mike
dodge.
Smith as an example. Mike Smith didn't go 5 seasons between good seasons. No, he didn't at all. I'm telling you.
There are times where goalies ebb and flow. This could just be one of those times.
5 years between an ebb and a flow?
Like, to be fair, though, the Sharks team that he played on towards the end were not very good. And then he was with the Flyers, who were also not very good. And then he was with the Kraken for 1 year, who were, like, I guess good defensively, but also for save percentage-wise, not the best, because I'm sure they didn't give up a lot of shots. Anyways, you put a good team in front of them, we'll see what we can do.
I guess. I mean, we have 3 games so far of good hockey. Will it last? If I were to bet on it, I would say no.
I'm not saying
to regress
for sure. But do you think that he could be like, let's say, how many games are there between now and March? We're on game. What is it? We're on game like 29, 30. Let's say there's probably 25 games until March. Do you think over, let's say, his next 15 starts, assuming he gets that many starts over that period of time, do you think he'll be able to maintain a 905 and above?
Including these starts? I mean, you'd hope.
Yeah.
Right? A 900-ish. How many games would that be?
And that's all we need. And that's all we need. Sorry for sidetracking us so long for this.
So it's like 30 games between. Yeah, we have 30 games until March right now. So I don't know. I mean, the issue is with Ilya Samsonov. It's between the years, and so his reads aren't very good. He's misplaying pucks. Just like before the shot is taken, he's just putting himself in bad positions. Like he's putting himself in less than favorable positions to stop the puck. Like, will it stop? Will he snap out of it? Like I'd hope so. If I were to bet, what's more likely to happen? Martin Jones, a 900 save percentage over his next 15 starts, or Ilya Samsonov Ilya Samsonov snapping out of it? Probably would have to go with Jones, just simply because, like, I don't know how you quantify a goalie within the same season kind of finding himself again. It has happened, but with this one, with him in particular, I don't know. So yeah, this is our tandem right now. You got to survive until Joseph Woll's back. And even then, like, the Goalie Science podcast did a great podcast on high ankle sprains because of Joseph Woll. And they were both saying when they had their high ankle sprains, they said it's really weird because you're walking, you're feeling fine, everything's good. And you go, okay, maybe I get back on the ice, do some light work, and you go into a butterfly, and they say it feels like your entire leg snaps. They said it's so painful. And so Joseph Woll will be playing with some pain, but how he's able to manage that and how he's able to play with that is to be seen.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, listen, you mentioned about Samsonov between the ears, not being able to be in the right position to make good stops. We saw that on full display in the Columbus game. It was bad.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Well,
3, 4, 5, sure. Yeah. I can't remember the exact ones, but yeah. Goal 6, even.
I mean, 3-on-3 overtime. It's always hard on the goalie because it's just, I mean, it wasn't the best shot, but again, like it's an odd man rush. The other team always has options. Like I don't put.
Yeah, you get time and space with it, so sure.
Yeah, I don't put weight into it, but yeah, let's talk about this Columbus game for a bit because, like you said, bad goaltending, but it feels like, I mean, we saw a good old third period comeback. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we needed that. That was a fun game. How did you feel about that game in general? Because you weren't able to watch it live. You saw the fireworks afterwards, basically, right?
Yeah. I listened to the fireworks essentially on the radio.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, this is insane. Like, I got off the ice. I'm like, 5-1? Like, what is going on here? And then I saw, okay, 5. And then the score was showing 5-2. I'm like, but I didn't get an update for a second goal. And then eventually it came in. I'm like, okay, so I got in my car. It's 5-2. Then they got a power play. I'm like, you know what? You get one here. Got a good amount of time. Anything can happen, and they didn't. The first power play came off. They had a face-off, and then it was Jake McCabe power play goal. Jake McCabe power play goal. What are we doing here? Jake McCabe's on like a 5-game point streak, by the way. So there was that, and then I'm like, okay. And then they pull the goalie, bunch of chaos, and I'm like, okay, it's ticking down. Like, I guess we don't have it. We good try kind of thing. And then they scored one. I'm like, okay, there's some time left. They've made the score reasonable. And then bam, just like that, another goal.
Yeah,
I could not believe down 5 goals. Jim Ralph read off the stats so many times on the radio broadcast. He's like, the biggest Leafs comeback was they were down 6-1. And in the third period, they scored like 7 goals or something like that. I think it was like the 90s or the 80s or something like that. So a time where you could more easily score goals. But yeah, then to lose in overtime after all that, it's like, what the hell? What the hell is going on here?
It's all right. But it adds to the lumps, and it was fun. I don't know. It was a fun game to watch.
Definitely. Well, it was a fun period to watch. Never mind game. It was it was a fun period.
You're right. You're right. The first 2 periods were a little out of sight, out of mind, out of the back of my head for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there's nothing much really to get into for this game. It was just wild back and forth, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny to see Jake McCabe score a power play goal, though. Like, I know I've repeated myself 19 times, but how crazy is that? Like, you expect, okay, maybe you'll chip in a depth goal somewhere, kind of like maybe the third line gets one for you. It's like, oh, okay, we got Jake McCabe on the power play.
It's crazy.
Was the one that chipped it in. And then Mitch Marner, the second goal, we glossed over that. Mitch Marner goes between the legs, but the reason that goes in is because he fans it. Like, Merzlikins kind of like stretches out, like, okay, he's trying to go far side on me, and then Marner fans it. So it just ends up slipping in between. It barely got any wood on it. And it slips between his legs for a beauty. So you not only got some just like grit and grind goals, I would say. You did get some nice ones in there. Like Matthews to Nylander, that was a beauty. And then Marner's goal was a nice one. And then, the touch pass. I think it was the tie goal. Tavares to Marner to Matthews. That touch pass by Mitch Marner. Oh my God. just the foresight to know, like, okay, I got that guy here. Just one touch like that was disgusting. Just what a talented team they have at 6-on-5 this year. It has been a treat. I will say that. And especially recently.
Yeah. I mean, it's been fun to watch. I'm here. I'm in for it. I don't know. I don't have much to say about this game. You summed it up pretty good. Let's hammer out the Duba Bowl quickly here before we head it out. It was just an absolute
Duba Bowl. So we have game 3 of the Duba Bowl. Winner takes all in April
8th, I believe.
April 8th. I can't remember.
Is April 8th a Saturday?
Ooh, that'd be a funny one.
I'm gonna look that up right now. But if it is hilarious. But
what was funny about that game? So they jumble up the lines. You're like, okay. Jonas Siegel before that game, I don't know when, maybe on the Friday or so, writes that article. Oh, the Leafs have a Max Domi conundrum. Like they did not went back and forth earlier in the year, but Jonas Siegel made a comment, something, oh, you're playing better at center or something like that. And Domi was like, no, I was playing fine this year so far. And he like kind of made a little snip at him. They played it on Overdrive too, so it wasn't just me that thought.
Was that after the article?
No, it was way before. It was like when he first few games into him playing center in November. It would be. He was like, "No, I've been playing fine." He snipped at him, and so then Jonas Siegel writes that article. The Leafs have the Max Domi conundrum, where I didn't read it. I didn't care. I just read the headline. I'm like, okay, sick, whatever. So the Max Domi with Austin Matthews and TJ Brody out, Max Domi gets that elevated role.
Yeah.
Was he on power play 1?
Maybe
I'm not. But either way, he had some good line mates with him. That's the obvious one there. And Max Domi delivered early in the period, early in the game. Couple nice passes through the neutral zone. One of them, he tracks back really, really well, makes a strip at center ice, gets it to Nick Robertson. Robertson provides, che bello sauce, molto bene, to Mitch Marner, who then roofs it on Tristan Jarry. They chased Tristan Jarry pretty quickly in this one. But what was funny about this game is that, like, the Leafs got a good chance, and then the Penguins went down. They had a really good chance, and they put it through the crease. And then after that, it was just the Matty Nyes show, baby. Comes back from sickness, goes in. Ryan Graves, I don't know what the hell he was doing on that play. Just gives him way too much time and space. Matty Nyes makes him pay, goes right around him, fake on Jarry, puts it upstairs. No problem. What's Matthew Nyes do on his second shift? Fight. Someone to can't remember who it was. Some random guy in the Penguins. Number 7. Took a run at Max Domi. Matthew Nyes went straight after him for his first career fight. That was awesome to see. What a welcome back to the lineup for Matthew Nyes. Just reminding Lisa, like, that guy can be such a firecracker too. Oh, just the combination of skill and banging bodies.
It's good because like he's had these like flashes when it's like this is only his first year, right? So like this is ideally the floor, right? So he's every game he should be getting better, and it seems like he is. Like development is not always linear, right? So it's not like every game, it's just like, is he adding something? Is he adding it to him? Maybe he'll have good games, he'll have bad games. Yeah. I think his focus this year is just to add tools, obviously. So I mean, only 30. It's crazy to think he's only played 30 NHL games when you watch him play. Seriously, it's kind of surreal to see. But yeah, good welcome back for Kyle Dubas there in that game, though. Max Domi, does well. Matthew Nyes scores a goal. Marner scores a goal. I mean, great game overall. Do you think he was mad? Yeah.
7-0 game for the Leafs. The Leafs hit 3 posts. Morgan Riley hit the post twice. Mitch Marner hit the crossbar. That could have been a disaster. Yeah. Disaster. Bobby McMahon, that was awesome to see him get his first goal.
Yes,
I've talked about his journey. Like, when you're going your 20-year-old year in junior, playing 4 years of college, having to go through the 4-letter league, coming out of college, played some with the Marlies. And then the next season, he got sent down to the Growlers. He had 5 points in 5 games, so was playing well. And then credit to Kyle Cushman on this one. He pointed this out. He got called up because of a Nick Robertson injury. And then that was the season he started to pop off and score some goals. And then the season after that, signed his first NHL deal. And then, 11 months after getting robbed of his first career goal in Detroit on the dad's trip, he got his first career goal at home. That was awesome to see. So shout out to Bobby McMahon.
Yeah, shout out to Bobby McMahon. Always good to see our guys come up through the system. And good for him.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
You good with the games?
Yeah, I think we talked about all three of them.
All right, perfect. That'll give me enough time to transition into our talk with our sponsor, over at DraftKings Sportsbook, where you can bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook here. Listen, I know you like the Leafs. If you're listening to this podcast, there's some division futures out there. You can check them out on DraftKings. Right now, Leafs plus 220 to win the division. Is it a good bet? I don't know. Leafs are 6 points. 6 points behind Boston, but they do have a game in hand here. Boston still is rocking that money, that incredibly hot PDO. I don't know. If you want to fade them, you might want to do that over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code THPN because new customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That is code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. NHL and NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Let's get into, you referenced it earlier, you teased it earlier, and I want to talk about what you talked about, or what we talked about a little bit earlier in this episode. It's that Jonas Siegel article titled "The Max Domi Conundrum." So were you able to read the article? Yeah. I read it, yeah.
Tell us about it.
So,
I don't have the Athletic, so I can't read any of that stuff.
I read it, and it made me want to cancel my subscription to it. If I didn't split it with someone, I actually probably would have canceled it. But
$1 a month is too much for you?
Yeah, it is, honestly. For this, yeah. But if let me just bring up the article because I can't remember the exact details that were in it. I just remember a lot of what he was talking about was saying that he hasn't been producing enough defensively, and he referenced RAPM. Yeah, I always say it better in my head. Those charts, right? So that was his biggest thing, and he proposed other options for 3C for teams like.
Do tell. What were the other options? Tell us what these other options are.
This is hilarious because he was.
I'm ripping the end of my seat. No.
Okay, so he talked about. So first he covered some poor shifts of Max Domi in the defensive zone where he mishandles the puck or something along those lines. Just highlights 4 plays. Fine, sure, whatever. And he's saying these are
turning over the puck in the defense.
Over the puck. Like there was one where he. I'm looking at one right now where he goes into a board battle and he tries to get the puck and then he tries to make a play to a guy at center and it gets picked off. So in the offensive zone. So whatever.
Before we move off of that, I'm going to be honest. If those are these are his defensive issues, I think you're pointing those out because you're just not smart enough to point out actual defense. You don't understand the defense and you don't understand, you're missing out on parts where if it was he didn't pick up his man here, he got beat on this, he took a poor angle on the guy with the puck here, he didn't pick up this guy. Those are defensive issues. Turning over the puck in the defensive end is just puck management. So to call someone a poor defensive player and then to point out their puck management just shows that you don't really understand the defensive systems, and you don't know what you're looking for when it comes to, is this guy a bad defensive player?
Yeah. So
is Max Domi a good defensive player? No, he's not. He frequently is in the wrong position, and he's frequently, taking bad angles on guys with the puck. But if I were to write out, Max Domi's a bad defensive player, I wouldn't show him turning over the puck. That's puck management. It's kind of different.
Yeah. So a lot of, he was saying that, but to be fair to him, he was saying that in the sense that Sheldon Keefe doesn't trust him. That was the angle he was kind of coming at,
because he's bad,
which is fair, which is true. Yeah. You're exactly right. But the problem is the guys who he brought up here instead, which kind of bothered me, where he provides offense, obviously, right? Max Domi, but like, what do we need to like replace that? Or like, what would we need as like someone you can trust instead who doesn't? So his first one that he provides is Scott Laughton, which is crazy, because Scott Laughton has been awful this year. Really? And the next one he provides is Sean Monahan. Those are the only two options he's provided here.
Sean Monahan isn't playing center this year.
I don't know. This is what he's off. This is what he's proposing here, but I don't know. It's just the way that he ended the article, like you said, where it was Domi hasn't been a bad signing, just an ill-fitting signing, a squarish peg jammed somewhat unexpectedly into a round hole. First of all, depending on the size of the square, it can fit it in the round hole. But fine for the regular season, maybe not so fine when it counts most. It's just the insinuating that he's not going to be good in the playoffs for some reason here. And I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of things you can criticize Max Domi for, but there's also a lot of things that you could compliment Max Domi for that we have never seen before. And I feel like this is just low-hanging fruit at this point. But like, we were talking about it before we got on here, and Max Domi is, I believe, 16th in the NHL at 5-on-5 points. Or sorry, 5-on-5 assists. He's 16th, right? He's the only player out of everyone on that list. They have at least 150 to 200 more minutes than him. Mm-hmm. The only other, he's played 320 minutes this year at 5-on-5. The only other guy who's even close to him is below him. That's Joe Pavelski, who's played 380 minutes. And listen, obviously Joe Pavelski is a much different player than Max Domi, but we like to think of Joe Pavelski as a guy who can get assists and generate points, right? He's like a fantasy guy, if you like fantasy. So to say that like Max Domi is like, the fact that he's putting up these numbers right now with the Leafs is honestly, I think it's like this is completely viewed the wrong way, because we're taking a different angle that we've never looked at before, where we actually have like an effective third scoring line, which we haven't seen since we've had basically Nazem Kadri, right? That was the last time we kind of saw that, when we had Nazem Kadri, Tyler Bozak, and Austin Matthews, or John Tavares, whichever year you want to pick off there, right? So personally, I was bothered by this article. You reminded me of it. I forgot about it after I read it. Thank you for like bringing it up today, because I mean, it's just so dumb. It was just so dumb. Go ahead.
I will add this, adding on to your part where you're saying he's 16th in the NHL in 5-on-5 assists. Solid. All right. He is also 25th in the NHL in points per 60 with minimum 100 minutes played. His assists per 60, he is third in the NHL behind Johnny Brodzinski, plays on the Rangers, and Travis Boyd. Remember him? Number 4 is Tim Stützle, and then Kent Johnson, Gabe Vilardi, and so on and so forth. Mitch Marner's actually up here pretty high in points per 60, minimum 100 minutes. Yeah, 13th in the NHL. Not bad. So here's the other thing I will bring up. You mentioned the 3 centers. We haven't had it since who knows when. Okay. What were the 3 centers for the Leafs going into the playoffs last year? It was Austin Matthews, it was John Tavares, and it was Ryan O'Reilly.
Yes.
Those are 3 solid centers, right? We were very happy to get Ryan O'Reilly. What was the complaint, though, in the playoffs, especially in round 2 against the Panthers?
Foot speed and being slow. And just quickly here, the craziest part is that Siegel throws in like, his foot speed has been declining over the last couple of years. Like, you've been watching Max Domi for the last couple of years, and you know that his foot speed is declining. Like,
I don't care if it's declining; it's still good. It's still good fast right now.
Like, yeah.
What? What is it not? Is it good or not right now? Like, answer that. Is it good or not?
It works.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's fast.
Yeah,
How did his second assist against Penguins? All of his points? You're not getting any of them without that foot speed. Like, off the rush, he's been terrific. Like, if we're going to talk about, okay, he's not good defensively, sure. Keefe doesn't seem to trust him very much. Yes, I agree as well. He doesn't trust that line. He especially does not trust Nick Robertson.
Mm-hmm.
So if you add like someone that can kind of help with the forechecking ability to help keep the puck in the offensive zone, and someone that can help in the defensive zone, like what Tyler Bertuzzi does in the defensive zone. You know how he's a good interrupter. He's good. He knows his positioning, although noticed a few times this year him and Morgan Riley getting crossed up, but I still think he's a solid defensive player and understands his positioning pretty well. If you add someone like that to that line of Domi and then Yarncroc, could that help? Could that help them play them more minutes, do you think? I wonder. It's a hypothetical. It's a maybe.
Yeah. So that also leads me to like another thing that I was thinking of. Like, so part of the thesis for this article is that, like, again, we don't trust, like, Sheldon Keefe doesn't trust Max Domi. True, right? So we have to solve that problem. So obviously we solve that problem because we solve that problem by replacing Max Domi. And I'm going to get to your point here in a second. And I agree with your point and what you brought up here. But I think the root of that cause, why we can't trust Max Domi, is because our second line is also, we feel, is not, we have to kind of shelter that line as well. Is that fair to say? Right? That John Tavares, like,
have they been sheltered though this year?
I guess with Mitch Marner on that second line, not really, but it feels like if he's not on that line, yeah, it feels like we do. And I guess that gets me to the point of saying, like, maybe the solution to Jonas Siegel's made up problem here is, like, maybe we just get like a second center and John Tavares plays the wing, move a forward down, like you said.
Yeah. Okay.
And that just improves everything. Again, does this player exist? I don't know.
I like that idea.
Sorry.
Better than the other option, which is move Domi to the wing. You cannot move Domi to the wing.
Yeah.
Your options are keep him at center or trade him, because he's not going to be very effective on the wing. Or like he would be fourth line, which is that the best use of your assets. So this year so far, Tavares has been ozone starts at 53.6%. So they haven't really been sheltering it. I mean, last year was 55.5. The year before was 56.9. Sheltered, I would say, is more closer to like 58, 60%. That's where you start, like, that's like a clear, like, okay, they're really trying to start them in the offensive zone. But yeah, I don't think they're sheltering them right now, mainly because they just really hate that third pair, that third line. But yeah, it is interesting. And it's the question I want to bring up. Do you think the Leafs should prioritize, like, do you think the Leafs should look to add at forward at the trade deadline?
Yes. And this is a we were going to talk about, like, they should add any possible way, anywhere, any way that they can. They have a first round pick this year. They don't have their first round pick next year, but they do have their first round pick in 2020, the 2026 draft. They have no second round picks over the next 3 years, though. It's going to be tough to make a trade. But I mean, we are in such an incredibly fortunate spot here. Like, obviously sad to see what happened to John Klingberg, potentially season or the career-ending injury for him. But, like, that opens up $4 million in cap space for us. That is a lot of money at the deadline, and that can go a long way. We have a lot of cap space to work with. We have so much we can possibly do. The biggest thing that's going to happen is who's going to be available. That's the biggest question that we have to answer, because that's going to dictate what we would need. But I think for sure, priority, I still think priority number one is getting that number, like is just getting Chris Tanev. That's it. And if you can't get Chris Tanev, then I think if there's a not similar player, but close to a player like him that's available, you go and get him. If not, I think forward should be the number one priority if those guys aren't available. Those are the big defense. But priority number one, defenseman. But priority number two should 100% be beefing up that forward group, as it always should be.
So I want to break down what you just said, because I think you brought up something interesting there. So number one, I do like the idea. Like, I think the biggest hole right now in the Leafs is the defense, the goaltending kind of is a close second right now, but I'm banking on Joseph Woll coming back strong. So there's that. I'm always holding on to that one, baby. But what you just mentioned here. So the defense, it looks like the Leafs, okay, everyone's saying, okay, the Leafs are going to try to upgrade on defense at the trade deadline. Defense. Is it wise, though, to overpay and not be efficient with your assets and spend on defense? Or if there's a good forward available at a good price, why not just do you think maybe why not upgrade on forward and kind of you're leaving the defense? You're then going to be going into the playoffs, your defense being Riley, Brody, McCabe, Liljegren, Giordano, Timmins, and that's it. That would be your defense. That's a well below average for a playoff team. But if you're able to add a good piece at forward, and the cap efficiencies or the trade efficiencies are not there on defense, I wonder. Yeah, and so I wonder who would that be?
If you're saying if you could get like a better, more acclaimed, better player for the same amount of assets for forward versus D, would you do it? I guess is what you're saying, right? Like
yes.
That's
a better way to put it.
It's impossible to have an equivalency between a forward and D, but I think you should, because I think your goal, no matter what, is to make your team better. But yeah, no, that's a good question. That's a very good question. It all depends on the players involved. I think it's a very context dependent question.
And who would that player have to be?
I don't know.
If you're below the level of if you're below the level of like an Elias Lindholm, I'm not saying go out and get the equivalent of like a Blake Coleman. I don't think that would be enough.
Yeah.
Even though he's a good player.
Yeah, you got to do more.
But like if you're able to get like Elias Lindholm at a reasonable price, or like maybe do you start to look at the Senators for like trade options there?
I was so right about them preseason.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Our good buddy Dave, the Sens fan, who called into the show in the preseason. He is not doing well right now. I texted him yesterday. I saw they were up 3-0. I'm like, hey, like, wow, congratulations, blah, blah, blah. And then I checked the end of the game. I'm like, what the hell happened here? What happened? You were up 3-0 on the Coyotes. And they just shit their pants so hard. Oh my God. So they ate a bad piece of fish in the intermission there. I don't know what the hell happened there. That was food poisoning level shit your pants. So
yeah. I mean, yeah. Regarding the trade, I think we'd have to take a deeper look at who would be available. There are very few forwards I think that would be available. I cannot think of a forward off the top of my head though who would be available that I'd rather have than Chris Tanev though
really
okay, that would be available. Like keyword be available, right? Like because obviously there are a ton of forwards I'd rather have over Chris Tanev, but the likelihood that they're being dealt is probably not there. So
have you watched much Chris Tanev yet?
Haven't seen a ton of him. I watched him a bit over. I just know his play from over the years. I've never watched him very closely. I've always liked his style of play, but
yeah, he's solid. I've gotten to watching him a little bit. I like what he does. He's a pure defensive defenseman, not really going to contribute offensively. Although I think that I closely zeroed in on him in 2 games. There was 2 games I zeroed in on him. He had a goal, his first in like 25 games, and an assist in that time too. I'm like, wow, what the hell's going on here?
He's going to be a point per game when he becomes a Leaf fan.
Yeah, apparently. It's not like one of those things where I was like, last year, I was like, okay, Jake McCabe doesn't have a lot of offensive, like he doesn't have a lot of points with Chicago, but the way that he's able to get the puck out of the defensive zone, I was like, he could put up 30 points with the Leafs. I could see that. And it's now finally coming to fruition. Tanev, I don't see that. I think he can move the puck out of his own end decently. I don't see him activating very much. I don't see the foot speeds, not crazy there, but I think I like his skating and his edges and his ability to defend the cycle and kill cycles. The biggest thing for me was his ability to kill cycles and how smart he was defensively. I really, really liked that. And like, again, he's one of those guys, blocks a ton of shots, but because he's in such good defensive positioning, he's an absolute nail. I am getting a little bit concerned at like his age versus he is getting beat up a little bit right now.
Yeah.
Especially he's been taken out of games a couple times now. So it's like, oh, geez. But yeah, that happens. So I would like Chris Tanev, and I do really think like having that right shot in the top four will really, really help. I wonder if the Leafs continue Riley Brody and having Brody on his off wing, or maybe keeping McCabe on his off wing and moving Brody to his left side. We'll see. There's just something that came to my head.
But we've kind of talked about that a bit in the offseason. And
we'll talk more about defensive
trades
targets. Yeah.
In the new year.
In the new year, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just a little preview on that. I like Tanev. I like what he brings. I wonder what he's going to cost. Defensive defensemen don't go for that much. Like Jake McCabe, half retained with an additional 2 years on his contract. The Leafs didn't give them a first-round pick, I don't think, did they?
For Jake McCabe?
There was the Jake McCabe, Sam Lafferty trade last year.
Yeah, we did.
What was the full trade?
We gave a first and a second plus Joey Anderson and Pavel Gogolev. But we got 2 fifths back and the equivalent of a third in Sam Lafferty.
Okay.
So a first and a second, essentially, for Jake McCabe, a third and 2 fifths.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Full trade was Lafferty, a fifth in 2024, a fifth in 2025 for Anderson, Gogolev, round 1 pick in 2025, and then round 2. Okay. That makes sense. Round 2 in 2026. Okay. But that was half retained Jake McCabe for the next 2 years.
For 2 years.
As well.
Which is $2 million a year of salary relief is valuable.
Yeah.
Like if you calculate how much we spent to dump what's his name?
Exactly. And McCabe had 20 points in 55 games that year too. So what would a defensive defenseman doesn't have the offensive production on an expiring contract cost? Solid defensive defenseman, but a defensive defenseman. Like think about this. Like Manson didn't have the best underlying numbers. Colorado knew what they were getting and it really worked for them. Mm-hmm. But like Josh Manson, what did Josh Manson go for? Is that an equivalency you can kind of look at there?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Manson probably would be a good equivalency, but I think Manson's perception around the league is less regarded as as Tanev's. I think Tanev has pedigree around the league, which will drive up his acquisition costs. And what I could see happening, the problem is the Leafs don't have a second round pick, which makes it so tricky. Yeah. Right?
So do you think would you value Tanev at a second round pick?
So I would say like maybe they traded like a second, whatever, a myriad of picks along with a second plus some other picks with the condition that it would be a first if he resigns. That's what I think is going to happen. I think there's going to be a condition there that they'll ask for more if he resigns, because based off of what Elliot Friedman said on this a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, said that part of the reason why we didn't get the deal done for Zadorov and Tanev, which the Leafs were very, very, very heavily in on, was because that they didn't want to. They were worried about Tanev re-signing with the Leafs, and they felt like they weren't getting enough from the Leafs to get like if Tanev were to re-sign. So, yeah,
that's true. That's a good point there. I mean, that then becomes a lot like a first. I was thinking maybe I think this would match his value if you swap Calgary's second, which I don't even know if they have, but Calgary's second round pick for your first round pick. That's about the equivalency of a second round pick.
Yeah, you're right.
Think about this, because if it's the 25th overall pick, you say the expected value of the Leafs pick is around the 25th overall pick. The expected value of Calgary's second round pick is maybe the 40th. So 25 to 40 is 15 spots. That's worth a second and more.
So what I would probably do if I was, what I would have to do to guess based on the parameters we just laid out there is it'd probably be a first for Chris Tanev and a second, like you said, but with the condition that the Leafs would lose the second and probably get like a lower pick or no pick if Tanev were to resign. That's what I would guess is probably the trade.
Yeah, I think you're bang on in terms of the condition. There's going to be some sort of condition if they go after Tanev there. In terms of other defensemen available,
we got to
we'll take a look at this later. Yeah. I think, it was fun to look at Chris Tanev. But I wanted to go back to your question regarding Samsonov. Can you move Samsonov, clear cap, and get some big player right now? I don't know what the exact cap room is for the Leafs right now with Klingberg on LTIR.
Such a mess, but yeah.
I know. But I wanted to take a look at the assets right here. And I wanted to go back to something that Brad Treliving said. Brad Treliving's never really been a big flashy guy at the deadline. If you think about it, like his biggest acquisition was a Calle Yarncroc for a 2nd round pick.
He traded for Tyler Toffoli
at the deadline.
Yeah, didn't he? Didn't he do that at the deadline? Was that in the offseason?
Yeah, that was in the offseason.
Oh, why did I think that was at the deadline? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and then they got fleeced.
That wasn't the deadline. You're right.
In my opinion, they got fleeced on that other one. But Sharon Govich, I guess, is scoring goals for them. So whatever. Anyways, it was in the offseason. But at the deadline, like when you look at Calgary's best years, I don't think they made big moves to try to upgrade. It was mainly offseason. So there's that, number one. Number two, he mentioned the prospect pool and how the Leafs have kept going back to the well, and it's kind of left the cupboards barren. Although I like some of the Leafs prospects, they're not flooding with great prospects right now. We have 2 on Team Canada, which is big. Mm-hmm. That's a good sign. One of them's playing first line, I believe. Easton Cowan, from what I've seen a few times, has been playing first line too. Wow. So it's pretty huge there.
A lot of people are going to be deleting tweets.
I hope. Yeah. So there are some guys that are projecting to be NHLers. Dennis Hildeby, another win tonight. But you don't have too many of those guys. And that comment really struck me. Oh, you can't keep going back to the well. Our prospect pool is pretty bare, so on and so forth. Like, especially for rentals too. So I wonder what Treliving's really gonna, like, if he's not afraid to not do anything at the deadline here, because he doesn't want to. So in terms, if this was Dubas, I could see him spending 2024 and 2026 first round pick and being like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Treliving's a lot more, conservative, especially at the deadline. He's more conservative at the deadline. I'll say that, because he did pull the trigger on. Well, he had to. So never mind. Forget that trade. I was going to mention the Tkachuk one, but he literally had to pull the trigger on that one. Mm-hmm. But he's more conservative at the deadline. So I wonder. But the Leafs do have a 3rd, a 4th, 3 5th round picks, a 6th, and 2 7ths this year. So maybe they look at a lower level guy, but I don't think you're really going to be too impressed with anyone you trade for like 2 5ths, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, they probably. Yeah. There's not really much.
So I wonder. I wonder what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
That's why I like my suggestion: a 1st for a 2nd.
I think that makes sense. I think you're right, and I think there's a condition on it where, like, either like you said, the pick is reduced. Like you said, the 1st, 2nd, either we get a reduced 2nd round pick and it's like a 7th or a 6th or a 3rd, 5th. And if we sign him, I think that's
because if you're a contending team, I don't think a couple 5th round picks is going to be able to patch up what the Leafs have right now. Mm-hmm. Right? Like to be able to go deep. I think if this was Dubas, I would have said, yeah, they're spending that 1st round pick and this is who they're probably going to target. Right. Or I wonder if maybe Treliving, if a guy comes up that's willing to extend, if then he's more easy giving away that 1st round pick. Right. Mm-hmm. But, I don't see them going after Hanifin and Elias Lindholm. Just my opinion. But so that's where I'm like, and to go back to the original thought, okay, you clear out $3.5 million for cap space. I don't know if the GM's really going to be looking at someone with that high of a salary with what they have. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. I see that. Sorry, I'm just trying to play around with like the cap here. just to see how much room we would have at the deadline. It's 3.843.
3.843.
Yeah, so we have around $4 million.
Okay.
We'll see how that. I don't know. That's with a full roster too, though. So
yeah,
I see what you're saying here, and it makes sense. But I just really think if we go into the deadline with that much, I feel like we're for sure
that much cap room, and you
have to
use it. Like
you almost have to. And Connor Timmins is like pegged as, I guess no, maybe you're 70, maybe not. Like, do you move him? He makes 1.1 million. Like, do you?
He's a weird one.
Yeah,
he's a really weird one. He was on like a 5-game point streak, but then you're just gonna get those plays like last night where it's like dying minutes of the game, you just tape to Jimmy VC.
So if you assume he's out, you have $5 million in cap space now. So it's like,
I'm not assuming, but it's like he's a really weird defenseman. Just simply because he makes great plays, he makes smart plays, makes some great great stretch passes, but then when it comes to quick decision making, sometimes he just goes, I'm going to pass it straight to the other team.
Another guy who probably just needs some more seasoning, even though he's like so much older than like someone who like he's just old. Like it's just unfortunate, but he just doesn't have, like you said many times, any games under his.
Don't worry, once the Leafs trade him, he'll be a superstar.
It's crazy. He's only played 78 games and he's 25, but
yeah,
and it's not like his fault. So, but kind of looks like Jim from The Office. Anyways.
I could say if you shave if he shaves, yeah.
I think that's it though for me. Just one thing to cap it off though with the Max Domi stuff. We didn't bring it up, but I really like how he essentially has elevated Calle Jarnkrok. Calle Jarnkrok has gotten a lot of praise this season, rightfully so. He's playing very well, but I think a lot of his praise is a result of him playing with an actual good playmaker in Max Domi here, right? Like Jarnkrok has 16 points in 29 games, scored 7 goals already in 29 games. He's gonna probably, I think it's a 25 goal pace. I want to say he's scoring at a 25 goal pace, which is more than last year.
Look at his first 30 games last year. He had 5 points. He was playing with Pierre Engvall, who's not the greatest, who's not really a playmaker at all. And then when he gets moved with Matthews, who just became a playmaker last year when he was paired with Jarnkrok, like you start to see like Calle Jarnkrok is pretty good. It's funny because when you think of certain pairings, a lot of people do the dumb guy logic where it's like, oh, this guy's fast and he's a good passer, and this guy's slow and he's a good shot. Therefore, they're going to be able to work well together. And quite often it doesn't work like that. But like you look at Jarnkrok's strengths and Domi's strengths, and they actually really do complement each other very well. And that's why they're scoring a ton off the rush is where a lot of their Calle Jarnkrok's good off the puck, giving himself space, and his shot's pretty good, especially off the catch and release. And Domi's got some speed and can dish the puck really well. He's a terrific passer, really, really skilled player. Just wish he could figure it out between the years a little bit.
Yeah. And just one more, you brought up a great point there about our off the rush offense. Our off the rush offense was horrible over the last couple of years. Not over the last couple of years, over like last year, basically. Just compared to last year. And it's it's always healthy to be able to attack both ways. It seems like that's how the good teams win, is by being able to attack either off the rush or through cycle. They do both. That's what they do well. Anyways, just wanted to throw that in there before we signed off here.
It's a great point. I mean, Vegas was able to, when the Leafs were able to successfully score against Florida, it was using speed. I mean, look at guys, Lafferty was a scratch in round 1, and then all of a sudden became like a superstar against Florida. Alex Kerfoot, same thing. Even David Kampf was having success against Florida as well because of their speed through the middle. The top 2 lines weren't able to generate that level of speed and generate chances through the neutral zone. So they really did struggle. So to have a guy like that in your lineup that's able to generate through the neutral zone, which pretty much all of his points are coming just speed through the neutral zone, like it's very, very advantageous to have. So that's just my thought.
No, I like that. I appreciate your thoughts.
So the one thing I want to do, and I want to put this out there, like compare the Leafs third line right now, Robertson, Domi, Jarnkrok, to third lines across the league. Like, where would it rank? I'm genuinely curious. I have no idea.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good question. Because Yeah, I want that's like a homework for me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go through and all these teams and look at
Take
their
a look
third
at
lines.
the forwards
It's
with the 7th, 8th, and 9th most ice time on the team at 5-on-5. How would those guys rank versus what the Leafs have?
It's so easy to say that, oh, X team's third line is not very good. Like, would you rather have Max Domi, Nick Robertson, and Calle Yarncrook, or would you rather have, let's look at Boston just as a random example, James Van Riemsdyk, Morgan Geekie, and Trent Frederick? That's their third line.
Oh,
like I know
Van Riemsdyk got hot earlier in the year.
Is having a good year, but like, I don't know, which one would you rather have, right? Like, maybe, I don't know. I'm just also going to do another, like, let's look at Pittsburgh, for example, who we just beat 7-0. Would you rather have that? Would you rather have Radim Zohorna, who was not an NHL player last year?
Radim Bargnani,
Lars Eller, and Drew O'Connor. Like,
no.
right? Like, and yeah, sure. Maybe they have Valtteri Pustinen down there instead of Drew O'Connor because Brian Rust is hurt. But
is Pustinen number 7?
Pardon?
Is Pustinen number 7?
No, I'm looking at their lines on Daily Faceoff.
Okay. What's Tampa's third line?
Tampa's third line. That's the next team I just clicked. Tyler Mott, Alex Barboulay, Connor Sheary. Huh. Let's keep going here because I feel like it's actually underappreciated how good our third line is. New York Rangers, they bottomed out, had a decent enough assets in core, were able to go out and sign guys. Their third line is Nick Bonino, Johnny Brodzinski, and Will Cooley.
Will Cooley
from
Toronto, Ontario, I believe. He was a former Marley. Windsor Spitfire boy. Big boy. He was the guy that Max Domi actually knocked yesterday. It was an interference, but he gave him a good run. And Cooley's 6'4", and Max Domi's 5'9". So interesting to see. But again,
I can keep
going. Because
last
year I remember criticizing our third line. I'm like, oh, like it's not going to be good at this. And the third line at the time was like Bunting, O'Reilly, and I think maybe Kerfoot or something like that. And your brother's like, pull up some other third lines. You'll be very surprised.
Yeah.
We just pulled up a random sample of third lines in the Atlantic. And I think the Leafs third line compares pretty well against them.
Yeah. So the only two that I've seen so far that are above and away the Leafs are the Devils, who have literally like guys on rookie contracts who are nasty on their third line, and Timo Meier.
Mike McLeod their third line?
Sorry? No, it's Dawson Mercer, Alexander Holtz, and Timo Meier as their third line. It's crazy.
Mike McLeod's their fourth line center?
Yeah. Yeah.
That team better go get a goalie. Oh my God.
I know. And then
disgusting.
Carlson, Nicholas Roy, and Paul Cotter for.
Oh God. Oh, that's good.
That's good, right? When you have Chandler Stevenson and Jack Eichel, it's a luxury, right?
Yeah, you're paying Chandler Stevenson dick all. And he just decides to become a good hockey player. Well, not decides to become, but
he's
a very good hockey player. Yeah. Anyways, what did the Capitals trade get in return for Chandler Stevenson? A 5th round pick. I remember Evolving Wild being all over him, like, this guy's the best. Because the issue is with Evolving Wild, like they did with Nichushkin as well, is they get on these guys early and they're like this, but they say like this guy's the best player in the league. It's like, well, no, he's not, but he's and then they turned out to be like very, very good players.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, these guys knew something, but they're not the best player in the league. But funny. Anyways, you have anything else?
That's it for me.
So, bit of an interesting week. I doubt next week will be as interesting as a 5-goal comeback and a 7-0 whomping. But, yeah. And then holiday break's actually coming up. I think we have 2 more games and then the holiday break for a little bit. And then we're back the 27th against the Senators. So, that's what's upcoming. Anyways, thanks everyone for listening.
Go Leafs go.